again, I'm going to say to you, see, when you're saying this, immediately I'm thinking on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And I don't like being devil's advocate because I'm not a devil's advocate. I'm,
I know. Usually we're winging it here.
Yeah.
I'm not used to you like pushing back like this.
I'm saying that
but it's
know,
good.
But I want to push this because people will say that, in a freely democratic society where we have the freedom of speech and expression, where we have transparency and accountability, how the hell can you say that, corporations this is a conspiracy theory? This is a conspiracy.
What kind of freedom are you talking about? Freedom of what?
I'm saying that the average person would say we have a free press.
Well, we
have a free press.
Hold on.
We have the freedom to
It's
assembly.
a corporate press, as you know. It's a corporate-owned press, and their goal is to make money, not to tell the truth necessarily. They're selective in the truth that they tell. I mean, people are figuring that out now. But yeah, so you don't have a free press. Go on.
No, but you're saying that. But the average person on the street saying, look, you're telling me that there's not a free press, but there's 300 publications, 600 magazines.
Yeah, they're making money.
I've got 46 channels on the TV.
Look,
I've got free internet.
The news used to be something that networks provided for free, as a public service. Now, and it used to be that journals were produced on the streets, that there was a wider selection and you had more competition. Now it's been consolidated into the hands of a few billionaires. They control the message. They're owned by corporations, by billionaires. And the goal is to make money. It's not to inform the people. In fact, it's to disinform the people. They control the message.
I'll say it to you again. Your average, let's say Ronald and Hilda, on the street, they're going to say to you, what are you talking about?
Wow.
You're insane because you're saying that at the very moment I've got all this choice of different channels of information. You're saying that, I'm somehow controlled in some agenda by some corporation. They would say you're mad.
Of course, there are channels that are better than others, and of course, I didn't mean to imply all, but the mainstream ones, the big ones, the ones that have traditionally the bigger viewership, now that's changing. And things are changing, and it's kind of exciting, but now you have emerging a number of smaller, independent news broadcasters and journalists who, some of them are doing a good job, I think. I mean, like Aaron Mate, who just uncovered this. He's in Syria, and he's, working on
the gas. The gas.
I mean, this is good
Syrian
work.
people.
There are people doing good work, and it's hard to figure out who they are, and you've got to pay attention. But the corporate-owned media, the big ones, are acting as a branch of the government. They're mouthpieces of the government. So, I mean, it's totalitarianism. It's what it is, where you have the government with the corporations, with the media, working together. That's what it is. And it's really become apparent recently. I mean, it was cleverly hidden right in front of us for many years, but now I think people are.
But what is, you're saying, that you're saying, on the one hand, you're saying it's not a free press and the message is controlled. And on the other hand, you're saying there is, parts of that press which are free.
Yeah, there are outlets, more now than there were a couple of years ago because of the internet and because of podcasts like this. And it's suddenly emerged. It's kind of exciting. This is why Gaza got so much coverage, why it's shifting, why Black Lives Matter got the proper coverage. And hopefully this will continue, where people...
So let me just interrupt there. So what you're not saying is, you're not saying that there are means there, because, I mean, I sometimes think that when this message comes across, we say, it's a conspiracy of the corporations against the people, and these corporations are very powerful, and they have influence.
Well,
and
they're only
have money.
conspiring to make money. Let's just be. That's what the.
But your average person doesn't have money, so he, like that, he may feel like disempowered. Like there's this overarching system. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's an overarching system, and I often find this in a lot of work I read. Like for example, Chomsky. He says, the manufacturing of consent. He looks at the media and the manufacture of consent through people.
Right.
And then often the question that's asked to him is, what can we do about this? Where are the means of, navigating the system? Because the government's under the influence of corporations. That's tied up with the media. The media is tied up with the military. Everyone's giving you a message, and it's being pumped out there across 1,000 channels. And so it's so embedded in consciousness that it becomes common sense.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Ideology.
Yeah. So, yes, what you're saying there is, yes, that's there. And at the same time, there are also, like you're saying, Gaza is a good example of how popular, opinion can subvert.
Well, here we're having a discussion which would never be allowed in mainstream television.
Right.
This is what I mean. This now, even by well-known, broadcasters. You could say we aren't known, so for that reason,
we're unknown.
We're
not famous. We're infamous. But we're at the edges somewhere. But the opportunity.
We're putting it out for the whole world to hear, and they can hear.
If they want, they could choose to, or they could say no.
But that's new.
Yeah, that's new. Yeah.
So this is what I mean. Now, I think what's going to happen, it's almost predictable, is it's already, because they're going after people like what's his name from Brazil? That guy.
Glenn Greenwald.
Glenn Greenwald, of course. I'm really bad with names.
There's a few. They're like Julian Assange.
The guy in Russia. What's his name?
Yeah, Snowden.
These guys, they're big. They're going after them. But
Chelsea Manning. There's a lot,
But it's, and I'm waiting for them to go after Mate and,
they did WikiLeaks, and Assange,
Matt Taibbi, and, I'm waiting for them to.
So let's break it down for a second. Let's break it down. So what you're basically saying, so let's just, break it down to the raw, the hardcore.
It's a hard thing to get your hands around, because unless you're used to doing it.
But I keep saying to you that, sometimes you need to go a few times. You need to do this one, and then you need to hit it again.
Yeah.
You need to listen to it and go again, because the relentless, kind of power of common sense daily being reinforced in people. When I'm only asking you very elementary questions.
Right.
When you say corporations, I'm saying, what are you talking about? Corporations are good, as far as I'm concerned. They give it, not as I'm concerned. I'm being devil's advocate, but what I'm saying is, average Joe is saying, what are you saying? I love going to the high street, the malls. I love shopping. Corporations, they're good. They employ people, right?
Yeah, and you've been taken in.
Yeah, you've been duped.
You've been duped.
Bamboozled. But we need to, like I say that, this podcast is about that. It's about trying to unravel it, because I think it's a constant thing. You're saying that you often find it difficult to communicate, but that's part of the problem.
It is.
That we to communicate the message, but it maybe need to, think about it and say it again, because I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying, can you see on the other side how people would think, Like, I've got Anila, she's from the States, and my wife, and, it's often hard work explaining, because corporate culture, and how people's minds are subsumed by an understanding that finance, capital, all this is good.
Once you understand, so the corporate culture it's hierarchical, it's dictatorial. Orders come down, you follow them, or you're out. The goal is one thing: profit, and you have to report quarterly your earnings. So it's near term, it's cutthroat, it's sell your mother to the the wolves just to get that profit margin up. And that has been now filtered into our government because
and society,
of course, society.
Yes.
But of course, everyone knows that I assume they know, maybe they don't, but corporations lobby politicians. They buy favors. They buy influence.
I don't think everyone knows that.
Laws are passed to remove environmental safeguards. Laws are passed to remove safeguards for employees. That's why you can't get a $15 minimum wage, even though the whole country in America wants it. It won't be passed. Why? Because the corporations are leaning on the politicians to say no. You can't even take a vote. Even the so-called progressives in the U.S. government won't vote on it. They dodged it because they can't go against their paymaster, which is the corporations. Whatever particular corporation is sponsoring that particular candidate, that's the details I don't know. And I don't know how they funnel them the money. I should research this if I'm going to talk about it, I admit. But, I do.
They fund the campaigns.
They fund
the campaigns.
They fund the.
They take them out. They give them free visits, trips, and they do. I mean, they have multiple ways.
Yeah.
To be able to give money to buy influence.
Yeah, and the tax breaks. There's another. The laws are passed so that the tax structure favors the rich and it screws the working class. So, once you amass that much capital, just the percentage on interest will double, your earnings over.
Exponential.
Yeah, it becomes their means of widening the gap, and it's just buying that influence in the government. The government and corporations are fused into one. This is what totalitarianism is. However, in the West, it's what Sheldon Wolin calls inverted totalitarianism, which is that you don't have one person in charge like a Hitler. Instead, it's the system that's in charge. And that system is managed democracy, where you have corporate ideology filtering into the government. And there's so I don't know. So there you go. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about.
It's not easy.
And, you got to keep your focus.
Yeah, because, the reason it isn't easy, because there's a lot that you're saying just now, which you're having to think on the side of the common person. So for them, when you say corporations, democracy, freedom, when you say all of that, these are very loaded terms. So you're literally dismantling each term. So you're saying, democracy doesn't exist. You're saying you're not free.
It doesn't. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's
not
free. I mean, if you're, at best, it was a republic. Now, a republic where you had the elite suppressing majority rule, but operating, for the most part, for the benefit of majority, the majority of the people. And that was the original idea, is that you won't let them rule. You don't let the majority rule, but you make decisions that won't be that unfavorable to them. But that's morphed into this monstrosity that we have today, which is screw the people, take all of the money.
See, I'm going to explore. I'm going to leave it there at the moment, because you just said this monstrosity. But you see, it's not. The majority of people don't believe it's a monstrosity. They are invested in it. They have a car. They've got a house. Could be all on loans, right? They have a job. Everything for them, they're opting into something that's being presented to them. Now, you're calling it a monstrosity, and there's a gap there. You see, people don't really see that as being a monstrosity. Do you get where I'm coming from here?
Well, and their heads been filled with ideology from birth. So they can't see it.
Yeah,
you're right.
So what I'm saying is they're saying...
And I forget that.
Yeah,
I do.
What you're saying that the average person, who's... they've got their house, man. You know, they got their decking, double glazing.
They've got their mortgage.
Nice car.
They've got their mortgage.
Car. They're
Yeah.
saying, what are you talking about? I'm doing fine here, Jack.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing all right, Jack. You know, so, I mean, we got to explore that a little bit more.